Of all my years watching anime, I never expected a Dark Souls reference in Kaguya-sama Love is War. I knew one day that Dark Souls would be referenced in some shape or form within a series. It's just too popular not to. But I just did not think I would see it in a series quite like Kaguya, because it is a rom-com. It's a slice-of-life series that has no affiliation with fantasy. Like, there is nothing like that. And I'm just like, when I saw it show a legitimate, straight-up reference to Dark Souls, it blew me away. Because, like, I love Dark Souls. Like, I'm just gonna let you in on it. It's one of my favorite games of all time. I love the Dark Souls trilogy. I love the DLCs. It's fantastic. I have done so many playthroughs of the game, so many different ways and challenges to play it. It's a fantastic game series. And just seeing literally an entire scene showcasing the Ashes of Arendelle DLC from Dark Souls 3 with the rope bridge. I know many might mistake that for the Painted World from the first game, but when you actually look at the structure of the environment, it is the DLC area of Dark Souls 3. And I'm just like, that entire bridge, I have had so many PvP fights on that with the red phantoms popping up on the other side, and I remember me and my friends constantly would run across and we would just cut the bridge and they would just collapse down. Fun fact for you, by the way, I know it's a little bit off topic from Kaguya, but if you have ever been invaded there, or if you're like, you know, as a, like an invader, if the bridge is cut and you're like in the middle, there used to be a glitch to where you could just float and you don't fall. Now, I don't know if it's been patched or not, but the point is that used to be a glitch. So when you see the characters kind of cutting the bridge and you see the red phantoms actually in the middle, technically they should be floating there once that bridge is cut, if it follows the old bugs and glitches of, you know, Dark Souls. But yeah, that blew me away. I was pretty impressed by that. It was honestly a very accurate reference, so just props to the director that actually apparently really loves video games. That's what I was told. So that's, it adds points to this episode. And I mean, there was even a Mario Kart reference. I mean, it was called Marine Kart, which funny, and I have to say that also brought me back quite a bit, because I used to play a lot of, you know, Mario Kart Double Dash on the GameCube with my family growing up, and so just seeing that, like the, you know, the 3, 2, 1, and then, you know, it's like, go, and I'm just like, wow, that brings me back too. So yeah, a lot of references, big fan. But after all that, it pales in comparison to the quality of the final sequence of this episode, with Kaguya going unconscious, having to get into an ambulance, and taken to the hospital. That entire segment, honestly, just went from 0 to 200. Not 100, 200%. Like, it was crazy just what went down. And the comedy... Okay, so I'm just gonna say right now, there is so many different forms to that segment that makes me laugh. There's different reasons for it. You got the Hayasaka stuff, you got the serious nature of the doctor, and then you have the Tsundere Kaguya. There's so many different shapes and forms to comedy in that like entire segment. I was dying. Like, seeing Kaguya legitimately denying the doctor's diagnosis of love sickness and making the situation worse was just absolutely funny. And the doctor literally diagnosed her as a Tsundere. Like, it was love sickness, but then he said Tsundere, so he pretty much straight up diagnosed her with Tsundere, denying everything. He did not diagnose her with both. And then Hayasaka, oh my lord, poor Hayasaka. She's just sitting there worried. Obviously, she's worried at first, but then when she finds out what it is, she starts to just cover her face in embarrassment, and I can't help but feel horrible for her. Like, she just like, oh, I couldn't imagine being in that situation, because you gotta think about it from her POV, putting aside the comedy, okay? Like let's shove aside the comedy for a second, why she's embarrassed. Kaguya, she is taken to a top hospital where one of the best doctors in the world is at, and decides to put aside his schedule to go see her. And so this top doctor that obviously has a lot of important things he needs to do, meetings, helping people, etc., he decides to put all of it aside just to see Kaguya, which is really nice of him, but he puts all of that aside to see her, and it turns out it's nothing serious, it's just love sickness. And from Hayasaka's perspective, you gotta imagine how that feels for her. Literally, Kaguya passed out because she loved Shirogane so much, and she's just like, my mistress is getting exposed. She's getting exposed for, how much she loves Shirogane. But on top of that, it's so embarrassing because she's just using all of this money. She's denying it, and, just like she's being diagnosed with what it really is, and she's just completely denying it. Hayasaka just could not hold back the embarrassment. Her covering her face, I would have done the exact same thing. If I was in her position, oh man, honestly, I would have probably just crawled up into a ball. I probably would have went into a corner and just did this and crawled into a ball, because it was just, I cannot imagine if that happened in real life. Like, I wonder if there's ever been something like that has happened. Like, I really do wonder if someone has loved someone so much they have passed out from love sickness. I do wonder if that has happened. Who knows? But the thing is just, poor Hayasaka, she is definitely not paid enough for what she goes through. She deserves so much more after just what happened within this episode alone, and how she's like, Kaguya, I go to this hospital. I can't really come to this hospital anymore because of the embarrassment. It's just like, okay. Which, I like the doctor as well, which is another funny part about the segment, is that the doctor, he's so, I guess, upfront about it. He's serious. Like, he's literally a serious man. You could tell by the way he treats Kaguya that he is very serious about his job. He takes his job very seriously, and the way he just confronts Kaguya and says it like it is, just so straightforward, is hilarious, honestly, by the way he does it, because you just, like, when you first hear it, you don't know if you can take it seriously, but the man is being serious, like it's love sickness, you're a tsundere, and it just, like, he's not joking about it. His face literally just looks so serious, and I just feel like the way the character is depicted within this episode, it really melds perfectly with Hayasaka's embarrassment, but also Kaguya being a tsundere, which, by the way, speaking of Kaguya, tsundere, etc., the reason why all of this happened, obviously, is because of the whole shed scene, and that... Whoa. Okay, so, last week's episode was very lewd. We know how that got. Like, that was definitely something that was so unlike Kaguya-sama Love is War that I think it shocked many of us, if you're an anime only, if you have not read the manga. And this episode kind of lets the stuff that happened in last week's episode extend on to this episode, and, like, the development and the awkward interactions between Kaguya and Shirogane has a lot of weight from last episode in this episode, and you can see how, like, the way they get locked in the shed, the way they react with each other, is just showing that their relationship really is progressing. I mean, they legitimately almost kissed in this episode, and I'll be honest with you, I am not the biggest fan of the cliche of the guy tripping over and, then he mysteriously is, like, about to kiss the girl that he's, like, leaning over top of. I've seen that a lot. However, I will definitely let it slide, because when it comes to Kaguya, it doesn't do stuff like that often. I know that many might not like it the same way as I did this episode, but I have to say, it was very tasteful. By the way that cliche was done, it wasn't done constantly throughout the past of this story, so just a one-time thing I'm completely fine with. But also, I do like the cliche of the interruption as well, because normally it would be Chika, Fujiwara Chika, that interrupts Shirogane and, Kaguya. That's who usually pops up to really spread chaos and just make it to where there is no progression whatsoever. But that is Miko's role in this episode, which is honestly amazing, because it really mixes things up a bit, because many that are watching this might tend to forget that Miko really is a part of the student council and is, kind of active now. And, I mean, even though she has been kind of established even with the last episode, she is someone that, many typically can forget about, because, like, you're used to just, Ishigami, you're used to Chika, you're used to Kaguya and Shirogane, you're not used to Miko popping up, and seeing her pop up like she did and interrupt the kiss between the two, I know people will be upset with that, but at the same time, I think it's perfect to add someone like Miko to come in and go along with the theme that's been building up with the previous episode of how the entire student council are degenerates. I think that's actually a perfect way to handle the situation, and to see how Kaguya acted, and she got up close to Miko, and then Miko looked at Shirogane, like, oh, you're scum and all that, I laughed, and I just like how the man's like, I can't really say it was a mistake or an accident or a misunderstanding by the way it looks. And it's just like, yeah, it's exactly what you think it is. He was definitely going to kiss Kaguya. And I think, though, honestly, that if Miko didn't pop up, there would have been a kiss, and there would have been some insane progression for the characters. But it does show, though, that they are getting closer, more bolder. I mean, Kaguya and Shirogane are showing that they're incredibly close. Like, this episode and last episode really does prove that they have grown very close recently. Like, very close. And just a few little bit more pushes, and they probably will kiss. I do feel like, honestly, I could be wrong. I could be putting my foot in my own mouth. But I believe before Season 2 comes to an end, I have a feeling that Kaguya and Shirogane are going to have a little bit more of a concrete relationship. Most likely coming to terms that they will definitely be boyfriend and girlfriend. I have a feeling maybe a kiss or something is going to happen between them at the end of the season. I know, like I said, I could be wrong, but I feel like it's getting to that point, especially after this episode and the previous episode. It is building up to that. But okay, so what else to get into? So let's talk about the situation with the whole Miko and Fujiwara Chika. That's wow. So the corruption of Miko has begun from Fujiwara, and it's funny because seeing how Miko reacts to Fujiwara in comparison to, let's say, Ishigami is hilarious for a lot of reasons. Because Ishigami, he does say a lot of good advice. He is a good man. It just, sometimes the way he goes about it, people don't really like the way he says things. He does say things that are very blunt and straightforward. Not a lot of people like that. But I think Miko really does have an exception for Fujiwara. And when you just see Fujiwara's like, oh, to be able to understand how rule breakers are and how they feel, you need to break rules yourself. And how she literally had Miko breaking the rules, taking pictures, and, putting it on, like, the social media, and putting filters on it. I'm like, whoa. So Chika really is corrupting poor Miko, and I think before everything is said and done, Miko will definitely lighten up as a person, and I'm looking forward to that, honestly. But seeing her develop and becoming a little bit less strict to understand kind of how it is, like when you enforce your rules on others and how they will feel, their emotions they will feel once you do a certain thing. So yeah, I think that overall, this episode, fantastic, honestly. I don't want to say that this is better than last episode, because, like, it's a constant thing I say, but this is fantastic episode. Like, I don't know. I mean, I really love the way last week's episode was, but this, I just seeing how the doctor diagnosed Kaguya with Tsundere and love sickness, man, that really hit. And I don't know, I really don't know if I like this more than the last episode, but this is definitely a very close contender. It's so good. It's a really, really good episode because, like, there's just so much progression, honestly, when you just see this episode. A lot of development and a lot of things that are continuing on from previous episodes are holding a lot of weight. But okay, I'm going to wrap it up here, though. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.